Hey there, fans. Andy here. Just wanting to let you know that 22 minutes into this episode, there's a weird audio glitch with my mic, and I sound like I'm coming through a transformer. One of the old 80s transformers. Just giving you a heads up. It's a little jarring. Sorry about that. I couldn't figure out how to fix it or anything. Uh, just letting you know this episode is one of the rare episodes where I lose my mind because this movie's terrible. If you get to the point and you can't stand my voice anymore, just trust me on this one. Don't watch this movie.
Welcome to the Geek 101 podcast, episode 257, Artemis Fowl. How does one describe Artemis Fowl? I'm Ariel.
And I'd be a better choice than Josh Gad for Mulch Stickums.
And we're here to talk about the book franchise and the recently released movie, Artemis Fowl. Before that, we do have news. And Andy, why don't you start us off?
All right. So everyone knows that due to some unnamed reason, Comic-Con was canceled.
Sure.
And that's... Yeah. That's sad. That's a sad news, and it sucks. Well, we have information today that DC will be launching a DC Fandom, a 24-hour virtual event, kind of to take place instead of their Comic-Con panel, basically. It's just a little virtual event. They're going to be covering some never-before-seen footage, announcing some stuff, just that kind of thing. It's the closest thing we're going to get to Comic-Con this year. It's on August 22nd.
Yeah, and it's always been hard to kind of hype up what happens at Comic-Con pressers now, because functionally the internet has made it impossible for those types of things to be as special as they once were. So I'm curious as to how that's going to happen. San Diego Comic-Con is also doing their own online version of Comic-Con. How it's going to happen, I don't know, but everybody's going to try to recoup some version of their resources with online conventions. They're doing like online exclusive orders. Like if you have tickets, you can order your own exclusive like merchandise, like you would if you went to the con. Blah blah blah. It is difficult to see companies that we enjoy and that aren't super big, exploitative companies. It's difficult for us to watch them struggle to figure out how to recoup resources during this time.
Yeah, and companies want to be able to make those big announcements. I'm sure DC has some things. The part of the announcements and stuff, you've got behind the features of or behind the scenes and cast and creators of Aquaman, the Batman, Black Adam, Suicide Squad. Sorry, not the movie, not the first movie, the second movie.
Oh yes,
Wonder Woman, Shazam, Snyder Cut. They also list. All right, Ariel, are you ready for this? Black Lightning, DC Superhero Girls, Batwoman, DC's Legends of Tomorrow, DC Stargirl, Doom Patrol, The Flash, Harley Quinn, Lucifer, Pennyworth, Supergirl, Superman and Lois, Teen Titans Go, Titans, Watchmen, and Young Justice Outsiders. That's right. Those are all the TV shows that DC has currently going.
Okay. Anything else about this DC or San Diego type thing?
I don't know, Ariel. Maybe it's an interesting idea. No badges required. Maybe we can do like a live stream of the main event.
Sure. Do we think that we're going to get any footage from the Batman?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, I'm interested. That's what I'm interested in, or part of it.
Yeah, I fully expect for us to get footage from the Batman and the Suicide Squad.
Yeah. But I also am now in the camp that's just like everything is bad. So we'll see how we feel about those things. But that is all the news we have. We will potentially have a bonus episode in regards to another rumor that has been circling, but instead we'll go straight into our main topic. Our episodes have been shorter as of late, and I've actually liked that type of style here. Let's talk Artemis Fowl. Andy, this was Artemis Fowl is a book series that premiered back in 2001. We were approximately 10 or 11 years old. What is your personal history and relationship with the Artemis Fowl series?
Well, my personal relationship's pretty boring. I picked it up around, I guess around 2003. You know, that was when the Eternity Code came out. I burnt through all 3 books in a weekend, and I never touched them again. But I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. I picked up the first book. I don't know what year it was, but I picked it up at the Scholastic Book Fair when I was a kid. That was held every year in our school's, small library. I do remember, wanting to get the sequels. I do remember reading the Arctic, what is it?
The Arctic Incident?
Arctic Incident and the Eternity Code and the whatever. I kind of jumped off the wagon after the Opal Deception. Once I saw the synopsis for the book that happened after that, right, where they jumped from like, oh, we are fairies and pixies and things to, oh, there are demons, and then eventually there's like time travel, and then I felt that I just wasn't really interested in that type of story anymore. But for me, Artemis Fowl was kind of like my Harry Potter growing up, where I didn't read the Harry Potter books. And Artemis Fowl flew under the radar enough for my religious parents to not care about.
Yeah, I can definitely see that. This is there's just something about Artemis Fowl that works. It works. Also, the author for this did do the 6th book in the Hitchhiker's trilogy, so there's that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, he's the one who wrote 2009, the 6th book of the Hitchhiker's trilogy, and another thing. ...
I've also read a couple of other books from his, like Half Moon Investigations. It's approachable. It's like a kid mystery. It's fun, but let's take a look at the Artemis Fowl franchise. What makes this franchise successful, do you think?
All right. First, I think the number one thing is the main character, Artemis Fowl. A little bit different from every other, young adult hero, I think, is that he is an anti-hero.
Yeah, he is, kind of a Dexter's Laboratory type boy genius. But he is a criminal through and through.
Right. And I think that that's one of the important things, is that he has no issue with the fact that he's a criminal. He doesn't think he's misunderstood. He knows that he is a criminal. He is seen very often even trying to hype up that image. This is a man who realizes that he is the bad guy and has embraced that outlook.
Yeah, he definitely wants his infamy to grow. I think from the first book you really get that sense.
Yeah, I wouldn't know it watching the movie though.
Yikes. So we have a few other characters in the Artemis Fowl franchise. Of course, the other main character and the other point of view character that we get is was it Captain or whatever? It's Officer Holly Short of the LEP Recon unit, which is basically she is essentially a leprechaun, and the Artemis
That's a great
Fowl,
name.
Yeah. Lower Elements Police Recon Unit. The Artemis Fowl series is about this 12-year-old evil genius who discovers and is obsessed with finding and proving the existence of fairies and leprechauns and elves of the sort. I think the book puts it really, really like well, where he has the like intellectual aptitude to actually like figure out they exist and find them, with the childlike naivety of believing that this could be possible.
Yeah, it's this very interesting part of this character where not only is he an evil mastermind, but he is the only one. He's the only mastermind trying to find this particular vein, so to speak, right? Like the fairies don't have the issue of humans typically trying to screw with them.
Right. They do have the issue of them being like discovered inadvertently, but yeah. So we have another couple of characters. We have a man named Butler, Domovoi Butler, who is a Russian/Asian. The phrase they use is manservant, but essentially he is basically Alfred from Batman mixed with James Bond. Is essentially what Butler is. You have Commander Root, who is a hot-headed, misogynistic commander of Holly Short. You have Foley, the centaur, who plays tech support. And then you have Mulch Diggum, excuse me, is a dwarf, a criminal dwarf whose specialty relies in thievery. So we've mentioned all these things. We mentioned the spirit of the books, Andy, that Artemis is a criminal, and it's in his criminal activity and his general sense of mischief and lack of regard for the rules that make him so fun and interesting. But apparently that is not present in the film adaptation. So Andy, tell us a little bit about the 2020 Artemis Fowl movie, directed by Kenneth Branagh.
Oh my god. Okay. So first of all, Artemis Fowl is a genius boy who he in the movie he is just searching for his father who went missing. Right? And they mention in the first book that his father is missing, assumed dead. There's this little joke that he's on a boat with 250,000 cans of cola.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that's a cocaine reference.
Yeah.
I almost want to say that, like, they told him that it was cola. You know, but basically in the book, Artemis Fowl's father goes missing or is just presumed dead. And there's no question that he is a criminal mastermind. The movie, however, opens up with a revelation that news crews are screaming about, that Artemis Fowl, the renowned antiques dealer.
Yeah, because there's so much money in that.
Right. The renowned antiques dealer, who, by the way, has instilled a love of these artifacts and this world into Artemis, has gone missing. That is literally the entire thing, is that he has gone missing somewhere, and apparently that's enough for like news helicopters to swarm. And dude, it's father's played by Colin Farrell, by the way, who will make a very good Penguin, I think, but he makes a very strange father figure in this. There's this idea they play with, like, oh, is he a famous antiques dealer, or there's rumors that he's dealing with rumors that he has connections to the criminal underground, but that's it. Like, that's, they never really delve further into that.
Yeah, it seems that the movie does not feel comfortable in playing with an Artemis that is so like strongly who he is in the books. Does that make sense? Like,
right? No, the the movie does not want to toy with the idea in any way, shape, or form that Artemis is anything but a kind of a misguided kid, right? When he actually receives notice that his father has been kidnapped, and he is told by this kidnapper. God, he's told by this kidnapper that they need to get his father back. He needs to give the kidnapper a fairy artifact. So that is why Artemis in this movie kidnaps Holly Shore, is to get a hold of this fairy artifact, which is a MacGuffin that does not exist in any way, shape, or form in any of the books. And so he's basically holding her hostage for this thing. It's called the Oculus or the Agulus. I don't remember. It's such a dumb name, and they keep saying it. Yeah. So that's what he's doing. He's trying to get this thing, and you find out it's the equivalent of a nuclear weapon.
Oh, jeez. So this movie, it very clearly just wants to take the idea of something and not take anything about it that makes it successful. It reminds me a lot of, of the DC universe movies, whatever, right? Whatever they're called. They want the dark cape and the bat ears and the bat symbol and the Batmobile and the bat wing, but they don't want anything, and they want the names, right? They want the names of the people that we recognize, but they just do not care about what makes that particular franchise so successful. They have no interest in it.
Right. And they have no interest in so a major part of the book that they actually take out is the fact that after Artemis's father went missing, Artemis's mother had a mental breakdown. And this is
undisclosed, yeah.
Right, yeah. And this is a major turning point, or a major weakness to Artemis in the book, is that this is one of the few people he actually cares about. The mother is not in the movie, not mentioned at all.
She's very, very important to him, and it's so both you and I just read the first book quite recently, of course. In the last few days, whatever. There is a very clear and concise, there are very clear and concise plot beats that can, I think, be directly translated to film. You can cut things out here or there, and since the book is so short, and since it's a quote-unquote YA book, it's a kid's book, really, right?
Yeah, it's like a 6th grade reading level is the official reading level of it.
Yeah, if it was a TV show, it'd be Y7. I just don't understand why they didn't adapt the first book. They don't trust what makes something successful to succeed. And by they, of course, I mean Hollywood executives, who I will constantly over and over and over again fight against on my little soapbox, where they don't, all they know is the fact that they have money in their pockets and a title that says producer. They have no idea what it takes to be creative, what it means to make art, what it means to know what is good or what has value. And this is just another example of it.
Right. Also, another thing, in the book, it is the book takes place almost exclusively in Artemis's mansion. It's very, any of the action set pieces are in that mansion. The movie has that, but I would say a third of the movie takes place in the mansion. And to top it off, the two characters, your Mulch Diggum, played by Josh Gad, who I really think they were too lazy to CGI him as an actual dwarf. They keep joking that everyone around him, when he says he's a dwarf, they go, "You're not a dwarf." And it's only because he's just Josh Gad sized when he's surrounded by all these smaller creatures. And it's actually revealed later, when he is Mulch Diggums is asked, he's a criminal and he's asked to break into the Artemis mansion. When he is asked this, he actually requests, like, his price at one point is the magic to make him shorter, right? So he can be a normal sized dwarf.
Wow, I don't understand why. Like, this movie is going to flop, unless you do one of two things. Like, you make it unbelievably great, like Lord of the Rings, or you make it completely true to the source material in a way that, like, that, that first Harry Potter movie, how it's not really great. Like, the first 2 hours, they're not really that good, but they're successful enough because they followed the book so closely, which was easier when the books are much shorter and much simpler. So you needed to do one of those two things, and I mean, very clearly they do not.
Right. Also, just Ariel, the main setup of Mulch Diggums, the way he looks, is he's just Hagrid.
Yeah, I've seen. He looks, to me, he looks like a mix of Hagrid and the King Dwarf from the Hobbit movies.
Right. And to top all this off, his voice is just Hagrid's voice with an American accent. So he talks kind of like this, but that's about it. He talks really gruff and really slow and really just low down here.
So he's nothing like the Mulch Diggums character from the books.
Right. The only thing that's kind of funny is at the beginning you see him being checked into prison, and Officer Holly bumps into him and he steals her iPod. Or,
right.
Some music playing device. Like that is it. Like, just the idea that he's constantly pickpocketing people. But literally, he is on Artemis's side, like, 2 lines into interacting with Artemis. Which is not what happens in the book. Which is not what happens at all. But
no, in the book, Artemis threatens the entire way of life for the fairy people, and even Mulch is sensitive to that.
Yeah. Ariel, I can go on and on about just how many things they changed, but it's just bizarre. Every character is immediately on Artemis's side. Artemis actually gets Holly Short on his side by just being like, "Oh, I'm kind of a sad little kid, and I'm kind of lonely."
It is strange because in that first movie, you're supposed to, or in that first story, you're supposed to like Artemis but not be on his side. And you're supposed to like Holly and be on her side. Like, even if you don't like Artemis, you're supposed to be able to balance that with the fact that Holly is such a likable character who has a very, like, unique struggle, right? She's, like, working uphill against her misogynistic commander, misogynistic unit. She's a trailblazer for women in law enforcement in her very ancient, like, civilization and community, whatever.
Yeah, not the case here. Judi Dench. I really think Judi Dench is on a Segway the entire time. Ariel, I'm not kidding. Her first few scenes are like her in, like, a rascal scooter.
I just don't understand why. It is so strange that they just get everything wrong about it.
Yeah. There's no reason. Also, the Lord Voldemort analog in this. God, Ariel. The story makes so little sense, but you find out very, very late into the game that Holly Short's father, who was killed on duty, was a yes. That's a whole thing, right? Oh. Okay. So in the book, Holly Short is captured because she lets her magic run out, and you're supposed to do a ritual every couple years, kind of a thing. You're supposed to commune with some kind of spirit and the earth and get your magic back. And Artemis figures this out and just waits for some kind of so it basically just keeps waiting for a fairy to eventually go to this place of this ritual so he can kidnap them. And it's kind of Officer Short's fault because she's so cocky that she never bothered to. She didn't bother to keep herself in shape, basically. Well, in this, Artemis knows that a fairy will be here, and for whatever reason, and Officer Short goes there to where her father was killed.
Yeah.
To get his dog tag. Yes, yeah. Oh. Trust me, it gets worse. It gets worse. It gets so much worse. So Officer Short goes up, and that's when she's kidnapped. And that's really the only act of aggression that Artemis really has towards her. Or towards any fairy in general. But you find out through talking, there's this entire thing that people bring up around, basically that, oh, we can't trust the humans. Humans and fairies can never be friends. That humans and elves can never be friends. Well, you find out that Officer Short's father and Artemis Fowl Sr., Colin Farrell, were very good friends. And thus everything is solved. And Ariel, this is the best part, the nuclear bomb MacGuffin. Well, as it turns out, Officer Short's father stole that MacGuffin from the fairies and gave it to Artemis Fowl Sr. for safekeeping because he knew that fairies couldn't be trusted with this much power either. It's bad. It's bad, Ariel.
Oh yeah, since humans have such a great track record with weapons of mass destruction. So I think we've very clearly established that. Yeah, something I do have to mention that despite not watching it, there's a very clear problem that is so easily identifiable for anyone who knows what the character descriptions are. So we have Artemis, right, the evil boy genius who is cold and calculating and still growing as a person, but has every kind of mental, capacity to do whatever. In the book, you have Butler, a European / Asian. He's somebody of unambiguous ethnicity, right? The book describes him as being, despite being 6'6", he's able to kind of blend in any crowd in the world because of how mixed he looks. In the movie, he is a black man. So, in the book, and Andy, correct me if I'm wrong, in the movie, is the family still tied to the Artemis Fowl family?
Yes.
Okay.
They do make that very clear. Yes.
So in both the book and the movie, the Butler family, last name Butler, is tied to the Fowl family. The Butler family, it comes from a long generation of elite militaristic servants who are trained in every conceivable way to be bodyguards / butlers for elite families. And nobody thought that it would be inappropriate to have a black man come from a family of servants. But see, I think this comes from the old thing where it's just like, oh, we're not racist. We don't say racist things to people. To imply in your head that a person whose description is manservant with an actual description of character and ethnicity and looks in the book, right? If your first thought is to instead make him a black man, that's racist. That's part of the systemic racism that plagues us today. Not only that, we do have this character Foley, who is in the book a centaur, right? Foley is traditionally the tech support voice behind the earpiece, and in the movie they decide to have him played by an Indian man.
Yes. Also, Ariel, the centaur, the way he moves in the movie is incredibly disconcerting. The audio doesn't match, the clip-clop audio doesn't match. Ariel, it's just so weird.
They also have a diminutive pixie, or the character in the book is diminutive pixie, who is very, very cold and calculating like Artemis, but a fairy instead. Right, comes from an elite educational background, and of course they have that character played by an Asian woman. And then finally, we have the character of Holly Short, who has, I think, as described in the book, as having skin the color of coffee. And that character is super white in the movie. So they've whitewashed the female lead, and they have turned brown all of the supporting characters who serve like very specific stereotype roles in this story.
Well, now Ariel, I will say, the Asian pixie that you're talking about,
Opal Cowboy.
yeah, you in the movie you never actually see her face or anything. She is what's the best way to put it? She's just wearing a cloak, and you never see her face.
Okay, but I think they're doing this with the assumption that she has a major point in the next films.
Yeah, yeah. That's the thing. At the end of this film, Colin Farrell's back with Artemis, and Opal's thing is just ruined. But yeah, that is the thing. We never see. Apparently she only portrays Opal in a deleted scene. No.
Still, that doesn't give them any points. It's just this reminds me of the 1999 film The Phantom Menace.
What?
Where they have where they have aliens with they have aliens with racial stereotypes. Like, this is almost exactly the same thing. It's really bad.
Never heard of it.
So this really frustrated me because I loved this book series as a kid. I enjoyed it way more than Harry Potter, because it's just Harry Potter wasn't something I read as a kid. Andy, when you were growing up, did you ever think about this being turned into a movie?
Yeah. I mean, it felt naturally, right? It felt like, oh, this would be the perfect thing to put into a movie. This is really cool. And the whole thing with the book is that this is a well planned out thing, and it has that heist sensibility where there's a twist at the end, right? Like you don't know who's going to end up winning, and that this movie just craps all over it.
Right. So when I was a kid, right, when I saw that Harry Potter had become a movie, I watched it, and my immediate thought process was cast Tom Felton, who plays Draco Malfoy, as Artemis, and cast The Rock as Butler.
Yep, would have been perfect.
Right, because so to me, like, The Rock is technically like part black, right? But he's not a black presenting, like a traditionally dark-skinned black presenting man. When you look at The Rock,
no, he could play Eurasian.
Right, you look at The Rock, you're like, yeah, I have no idea what nationality he is. If he told me he was Asian, if he told me he was half white, if he's half black, you cannot like look at him and debate and just disregard what he's saying. Not that you should do that with anyone. And so, like, that pairing would have been great. You have a snarky, young, young person from the United Kingdom who can play this kind of evil yet charming character, and you have this massive mountain of a man who we know can do flips and tricks and kicks and all that fun stuff that Butler can do, and he's oozing with charisma, right? Which is something that maybe you could have added to it. It's so unbelievable that, like, we've waited so long, and we got garbage. This is how. I've never been completely enamored with either the books nor the films, but this is how, from what I've heard, the Percy Jackson fans feel.
Yeah. Also, news on that: we're getting a Percy Jackson TV series on Disney Plus.
Yeah, that's good to hear. Yeah,
Ariel, but back to, like, you mentioned this movie, The Phantom Menace. Is that the sequel to The Phantom with Billy Zane?
That's correct. Yes.
Okay,
that's correct. And then it's the prequel to the Phantom Thread.
Wow. Man, that won a bunch of Oscars. I'm really glad that franchise took off, the Phantom franchise.
Yeah, you should probably go check out that movie, Phantom Menace. There's this character I think you'd be really enamored with. His name is Watto.
I don't like the sound of that. It sounds like he might be some really stereotypical.
Yeah. So anything else about both either book or movie that we can discuss?
Read the book. Don't watch the movie. Don't give Disney. If you have Disney Plus, don't watch this movie.
Right. Don't click on it. Don't give them a view.
Right. Don't. Just don't. Like, it's got a 9% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is this is just as bad as X-Men Dark Phoenix.
Hmm.
And if you think
That my jumping around and describing the plot was my own fault of being poor at describing how this goes,
it isn't. It's the movie's fault. It's an hour and a half long, and it somehow manages to be both overlong and way too short.
Andy, I have the perfect comparison film for the Artemis Fowl Disney film.
all right, hit me.
M. Night Shyamalan's The Last Airbender.
Yep. You know what? I haven't seen it, but
I'm sure that it is of the same quality. Well, no, it's probably worse. Or The Last Airbender is probably worse.
Well, here's the thing, though. It takes a beloved property and it takes the names and the characters and some of the general plot structure and it steals that, but it takes none of his spirit and doesn't understand what makes that thing work or makes that thing good.
Yep. All right, Ariel. I'm just gonna say I give this an F. Don't watch this. Don't try to watch this. It's not even like bad enough to hate watch.
it's just bad, and it just insults the viewers, the readers, anyone who was looking forward to this movie. This could have been better, and it wasn't.
Yeah, totally agree. All right, let's get out of here. Let's do some homework. Andy, what do you got?
My homework. Let's see. My homework is to read the Artemis Fowl book because I really enjoyed reading it. That's Artemis Fowl by
Owen Colfer.
Yes, Owen.
Yes, that is how you pronounce that. It is spelled Eoin, but I'm 95% certain it's Owen.
Did I suggest Winter Soldier last week? Was that my homework?
I don't remember.
Me neither. So I'll do something else. It was, yeah. I'm going to recommend a comic I just bought at Manifest Comics over in Bayonne, New Jersey. It is a book, a comic book geared towards YA, written by Jean Lung Yang. The art is by a man named Giruhiru, so it's an Asian created comic. It is Superman Smashes the Klan with a K. It is essentially a story about Superman directly opposing the Ku Klux Klan, just to remind everybody that Superman, the man who is most good in all of comic books, or supposed to be, a man who exclusively fights evil, decides to take on the Klan. So if you're listening to this and you support those white hooded a-holes, just know that you are the bad guy.
And Superman will smash you.
Yes. That's yes. All right. Do we know what we're doing next week yet?
No, Ariel, we have no idea. And you know what? That might be for the best. I'm not in a mental state to choose anything.
I will choose something that is just ridiculously happy
and yeah.
Andy had to suffer through this movie. So we will get back to you on what we're doing next week. But before we leave, Andy, where can people find you online?
You can find me online on Twitter at HebrewsPaleal.
You can find me at Portly Island Boy. You can find us at Geek101 Podcast on Twitter and Facebook and Patreon. Email us geek101pod@gmail.com. That's where we are for today. Class dismissed.